Well, we now have ducks, so we added one more animal to the homestead. Well, we went to the farm store a couple weeks ago and they had ducks in there for sale. So my wife said she really wanted to get the ducks, so I had to end up getting everything set up and ready for ducks. So I had to get out the old chicken brooder that we had on our first batch of chicks, and that's what this is, but it didn't have this lid on here because we did it in our garage before. So now we're out here in a pole barn where it's unsecure, so we needed to go ahead and get a lid on here to make these safe so no critters could get to them. So we got a latch over here, we got a couple hinges on the side, and this is 1-inch hardware cloth. I had some of this left over. So these are just some scrap boards left over from our building on our house. So made this all secure, ended up hanging a couple heat lamps inside of here and got the brooder all ready. So the wife went to the farm store to buy the chicks when she got off one morning. This is about 3 days later, and all the ducks were sold out. So she decided to buy some chickens. So she bought 6 chickens. I think there were 4 Americanas and 2 others that were either Bantams or Barred Rocks. She don't remember it. She knew it started with a B. So anyway, it was a long drive home. I don't think they were very warm, and 4 of them died pretty quick. So that evening we ended up calling around, found another farm store that had just got some ducks in, and we bought 3 Peking ducks, and we've got 3 khaki Campbell ducks, and that's the browner ducks. And so we got 2 chicks and 6 ducks in the brooder. And these ducks were about the size of these chicks when we bought them. It's been a week and a half, and these things grow fast. It is amazing how big these ducks get, how quick they get there. So much quicker than a chicken. So far, we're liking the ducks. They are definitely seem to be a lot neater than the baby chicks, I think, but they are messy, as you can see. So stay tuned. We plan on actually putting a duck house out at our orchard, and that'll be about 100 feet or so from our pond. So then they'll be able to hopefully, go over to the pond and play in the pond and go back to the duck house where we can lock them up at night. So that's the plan. We're gonna eventually put these out in the orchard to live. This is Alice, our doe rabbit. We bred her to Thumper here on February 23rd, and she should be having a litter of babies here come about March 23rd. It's the 16th of March right now, so we got about a week and a half or so, and we'll be having a litter of rabbits. That'll be our first litter of rabbits, so it'll be a new experience for us. So this here is Helen. She is our blind chicken. She was attacked by a hawk, and he ended up pecking on both of her eyes. One of her eyes actually looks like it should be functional, but she just walks around and runs into the fence and runs into things, and she doesn't seem to be able to scratch. She can't forage food. She can't seem to get around very well and find her way. When she was attacked by the hawk, the 2 roosters that we have, they ran off with the rest of the flock and went to safety and did not try to help her in any way. So my wife saw it happen. She had to run outside. When she ran outside, of course, the hawk flew off, and then she's been trying to nurse Helen back to health. So Helen has been in this condition now for about a month. She seems to be all healed up, but she does not seem to have any vision or any good vision. So it's too bad, because she was a very unique looking cross between a a buff Orpington and a black Australorp, and she's a very unique looking bird. So what we're going to have to end up doing is we're going to probably end up butchering her since she cannot forage for herself. We've got food and water right here in front of her, and she pretty much sits in one spot where she can find those two things. And but she can't seem to function on her own. So she's not laying any eggs. She's not really giving us any value here on the homestead, so we're gonna have to end up butchering her, and then my wife wants us to butcher the roosters as well. So here soon we'll be butchering Helen and a couple roosters, and taking the flock down a little bit, because if they're not going to serve a purpose, there's no use in having them. That's just kind of the hard realities of having livestock. Well, we have another new animal, and it is a cat. Someone, I guess, was gracious enough to drop off a cat out here in the country, and it's actually a fairly tame cat. Obviously, it's grew up in a house. It's used to dogs, used to people, tries to get in the house, wants to rub up against you. It's not a very feral cat, but it likes to stay out here in the barn on top of the brooder where it's nice and warm on top of these heat lamps. And so far it's worked out okay, I guess. My golden retriever here, he wants it to be his best friend and wants to play with it, and he's a little big for the cat. And then my wife's dog down here, she don't like the cat at all. But she's learning to at least deal with it. Shh. Calm it, shush. You be good. She doesn't want to play with you. Knock it off. She don't want to play. You're such a dork. So the cats, we ended up naming the cat. The cat is Oreo. We believe she's a female, and we're talking about taking her to get her fixed, I guess. We already bought cat food. We're feeding her. So this is a new member of the family. We'll see how long she lasts. We've had a couple other barn cats that's kind of showed up. They didn't like people, though. They ended up to the coyotes eventually, so we'll see how long this one lasts. On a good note, she did drag a mouse in here the other day, and my wife hates mice. My wife don't like cats very much, but she hates mice more. So she was happy that the cat did its job and killed a mouse. So hopefully the cat will do a little bit of work around the property. Was able to get the garden all prepped for spring this weekend. We ripped out all the cages, all the tomato plants, pepper plants, got everything all ripped out and pretty much all straightened up. So we've got piles and piles of old plants that we've ripped out, and we just threw them in the yard. We'll just get them mowed over with the brush hog later with the tractor, and that'll mulch them all up. Now the garden, we ended up putting some black plastic. We had a bunch of black plastic left over from the home build, so we brought some out here and we got some spots covered up with black plastic, and that's our attempt to try to kill the grass or weeds in that area. Figure we got about 1 month till our last frost date, so we let this sit on here for a month, and hopefully that will take care of all the weeds under there, and hopefully any seeds underneath there will germinate and die off. And the rest of this garden, I'll probably just end up roundupping, putting some Roundup on it and killing it. I am not organic, obviously. I am whatever is the easiest and the cheapest. So the plastic was free, so we're going to give that a shot. Of course, Roundup does cost some money, but we're going to go ahead and probably do that to the rest of the garden. Except over here, I got the onions that we had left in the ground from last year that didn't grow with the got covered up with weeds. You see a bunch of these onions, they're all coming back. So we'll go ahead and leave these in here and just see how they turn out this year. They may not be any good, but we'll just wait and see. I'll have to weed this by hand in this section then. So on my drip irrigation system, I've got two types of drippers. I've got red ones, they're 2 gallons a minute, and I use them on tomatoes. And then I've got some black ones that are 1 gallon a minute. Now I'll probably go ahead and swap them all out and just put in black ones so that they're all consistently 1 gallon a minute. I think I overwatered a little bit last year, so I'll probably just pop them all out. I got them spaced about, I'd say, I don't know, around 4 feet apart, 4 or 5 feet apart. And that's just how far apart I'll do all my plants this year. And basically I'll end up with about 28 plants per row. So I'll have plenty of space for plants. I also had these are like little sprinkler heads. They're like adjustable, anywhere from 2, I think, to 15 gallons per hour. And these really just dropped the water pressure. They took way too much water away from the system. I think I have 6 of them installed on this hose, and basically I'm going to take them out. I'm just going to put the 1 gallon per hour drippers, and all my plants are going to get the same amount of water this year. So right here around this fence panel is where I deep mulched last year with a bunch of hay and stuff that was in the barn. I've been on the list for chip drop for a month now, and maybe another place, and I didn't figure I'd get anything, and I didn't. I think I was up to like $60, and I'd take wood chips with some logs or whatever, and I think that is just something that you get in the city. I don't think that anybody around here looks at that, so I was not able to get any wood chips that way. I really wanted wood chips for deep mulch. I am planning on going ahead and calling some people who cut down trees and see if anybody has wood chips that they would maybe bring to me for, you know, for a small price. But so I'm still checking into that, hoping to get some kind of deep mulch down so that I don't have to have such intensive weeding to do in the garden. So holding down all this plastic that I'm trying to kill these the grass and the weeds or whatever with, I've got a bunch of treated boards that I'd bought. Now when I went and I researched treated lumber, not all treated lumber is the same. Actually, some of it is not rated to be in contact with the ground. It's, you know, it's rated to be outside and withstand the weather, but not in contact with the ground. So I ended up buying these boards, which are the cedar tone treated boards. They got that cedar color. They actually have more treatment to them, and they are these are rated to be in ground contact. So I'm hoping that these boards will last longer as raised beds. So I went ahead and spent a little bit of extra money on these boards. So I ended up buying 18 of them. So I'm going to end up putting raised beds, you know, somewhere down probably in this end of the garden, and then the rest of this flat area is where I'll end up planting, you know, the pumpkins and zucchinis and squash, plants that need room to spread around. I'll probably plant them in the rest of that area. And then I've got these 18 boards that I'm going to try to make some raised beds in this area. Now next year, our house is being built right back there. Hopefully we'll be done and be moving in here in a month or so. But we've got the ground out there to level out and to do dirt work and plant grass. And next year we're planning on putting our garden back there next to our house. So we'll be relocating these planter boxes next year to the new garden location. It'll probably be a month before I start building these grow boxes. I'm gonna have to wait till the last frost date before I pull the plastic back and build those raised beds. But back at the house, there is some piles of dirt back there from excavating the basement, and one pile of dirt actually has mostly topsoil in it, so it's less clay. I'll probably use that. I'll mix that with some peat moss and stuff from the compost pile and mix that all together and fill these raised beds. Well, the sun is going down. I think this wraps it up for this video. I'll see you in the next one. You are a silly cat.